Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sand and watches the ships that go sailing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tales from the Backlog, a Backlog Games deep dive podcast. I am your host, Dave Jackson, he, him.
And I'm Joseph, he, him.
And today on the show, we're talking about Bioshock. But before we get into that, if this is your first time listening, thank you for stopping by. If you like the show, please consider supporting it however you can. You can do so for free by telling a friend, leaving a review on the podcast apps, likes and comments on YouTube. And you can also support monetarily over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/realdavejackson. And if this is your first time here, here's how spoilers work. As always, we're not going to spoil the story of Bioshock for a while. Bioshock does have a really famous story, we'll say, within the gaming zeitgeist and conversation. So we're not going to spoil it. We'll save that for the spoiler section per usual, just like every episode of the show. We will warn you when spoilers are coming, and we'll also have timestamps down in the show notes for that. So, as you heard at the top of the show, my guest for today's episode is Joseph Hooper. He is a podcast host with Crossplay Conversations and Player, as well as the host of the Can't Pause YouTube channel, and he's building his own underwater city. Joseph, welcome to the show.
That is true. I've been talking to a lot of contractors over in the Atlantic area, the Atlantic Ocean area. We are building an underwater city. So when I'm not podcasting, I have my hard hat on and my scuba gear on, and we're planning it down there.
Hard hat, clipboard, steel-toed boots, the whole get-up. Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Thank you for taking a break from the construction to come on the show. I'm really excited to talk about Bioshock with you. Number one, because it's Bioshock. It's a game it's fun to talk about. But number two, Bioshock is on the show because it was in one of my monthly Patreon polls. It won the poll, and you actually submitted it for that poll. It's not always the way it works out that the person who chooses the game becomes the guest, but it was too perfect of an opportunity to have you on the show for the first time. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am honored to be here to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, which
Hell yeah.
Is that still the case? I don't know. We'll find out as we discuss this game.
Yeah, we will get there for sure. So the game today, as we said, is Bioshock. It is a first-person shooter. It was developed by 2K Boston and 2K Australia and published by 2K for PC and Xbox 360 in 2007, with a PS3 port that came in 2008. The director and main writer for the game was Ken Levine, co-director Alyssa Finley, lead designer Paul Hellquist, lead artist Scott Sinclair, and the composer of the game's original music is Gary Scheinman. So, what is Bioshock? In case someone is here and doesn't know what it is, or just wants to hear the weird-ass quick pitches we come up with, I say Bioshock is, if you're one of the 35 people that played System Shock 2 and not Bioshock, it is Underwater System Shock 2. Joseph, what would you say?
Yeah, I would probably describe it as one of the best underwater dystopia games you will ever play. One of the best dystopia games you can play, period, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I played this for this playthrough for the podcast. I played this on PS5. It took 13 hours. Special shout out negatively to the PC versions that just straight up crash every 5 seconds I tried to play it. I went on the Steam forums, the GOG forums, looking for people with fixes, and they were like, yeah, no, this shit doesn't work. So played on the PlayStation again. That worked just fine. How about you?
Yeah, I actually did play on PC, but I played Bioshock Remastered. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Okay.
But I played probably 80% of this game on my Steam Deck, surprisingly.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which actually worked pretty well. So yeah, I was just as surprised as you were that it worked. So
nice. Sometimes things get weird. Like, this is a thing with older games. Sometimes like a nice gaming PC is like too powerful to play older games sometimes, but the Steam Deck is actually like kind of perfect. So makes sense in my head.
Yeah. You never know with PC. You literally never know.
Yeah. There's definitely advantages to going with consoles. You just pop it in and it plays. So
Yeah.
anyway, Bioshock. Now, this is neither of our first times playing this game, so let's get into our histories with this game and with the series. So we'll start with you first. Now, again, you put Bioshock in that Patreon poll. You said it's one of your favorites. Did you play it right when it came out? How'd you jump on this?
No, so interestingly enough, this was back in the age where I was pretty young, and I learned about games through like commercials essentially. And I remember seeing back in the day the original Bioshock 1 commercial, which is like this semi-realistic first-person view of a guy essentially fighting a big daddy, and he's shooting bees out of his hand. And it's just really weird and
Yeah.
creepy, but it definitely caught my attention. So that's what got me into it. And I actually watched one of my first playthroughs ever, one of my first, start to finish video game playthroughs ever on YouTube by this guy named Mac Titty, and he played through Bioshock on hard. I watched him play through the whole thing, learned all the tricks and everything, and then played through it myself. I actually tried to rewatch his playthrough as I played through it this time as well, but unfortunately it was like in 240p. And like it's literally I can't see anything that's happening anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, that one's lost to time. But yeah, that's my story.
Nice. Did you go on to play Bioshock 2 and Infinite as well?
Yep, played all of them, had a great time with all of them, but maybe didn't really pick up on a lot of the themes that were going on at the time, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely, there's parts of this episode where I'll like make comparisons to Infinite and Bioshock 2. I won't give spoilers in case someone hasn't played those, but I'm kind of looking forward to now, like I can see myself doing a little mini Bioshock, and not like a series. It's going to be over the course of a year or so, but like I'm looking forward to replaying those other ones and doing episodes on those too. Cause they're interesting, if nothing else. For me, I played Bioshock like so I played it on the 360 for the first time, and it had to have been in 2007 or 2008. Cause I remember the college house I was living in when I played it. And that's how I place what year it was, because I moved basically every year back then. And I remember playing Bioshock in one of those houses. I don't remember why I picked it up. I'm sure it was kind of like you. Like I saw an ad for it, or I saw it in a magazine, or like this is back in the day when like I would go to GameStop and I would ask the guy at the counter, like, what should I play? And
Yep.
a lot of times they would recommend banger games for me. So Bioshock might have been one of them. Like that happened with Morrowind, that happened with Dark Souls. Like it used to be a thing I did. So I don't know. I got it. I played it. I loved it back then. Another cool part of my history with this is I had not played any of the System Shock games back then. And actually last year I played System Shock 2 for the first time. And I did a podcast about that. And I remember playing System Shock 2 and just like marveling at how much of Bioshock was in System Shock 2. And then now
Really?
replaying
Okay.
Bioshock, I'm like, the structure of the game is like the same. And there's a
Really?
whole bunch,
Okay.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's like, I don't want to say too much and spoil System Shock 2, but it's like they hit a lot of the same beats, and you can see that DNA like crystal clear in here. It's really cool. I love it when that happens. I love when, playing the earlier game like kind of unlocks that connection. Because it
Right.
is like Ken Levine was the director of System Shock 2 and the BioShock series and stuff. So super fun to get into that. This is my my third time playing this. I also played it when I first got a PlayStation 4 in 2019 or so.
Okay.
So yeah, many times playing this. And I was kind of curious jumping into BioShock again after several years. I think about games differently now than I did the last time I played this after starting the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, especially with the story. And like, it has a pretty famous moment in the story. And there's a lot of stuff that I wondered, like, how good is BioShock really? Was I just shocked back then, or is it actually good? And BioShock is actually good. This shit is awesome. Like
Yeah.
this is a timeless, just good ass video game. With the clarification that I think about 3/4 of this game is timeless, good ass video game. And I think the last quarter of this game is pretty bad. And we'll
Interesting.
talk we'll
Interesting.
talk about that stuff a little bit later. But I think that like all the stuff that was good back then is still really good. And like it kind of gives I'm kind of working on this thing where I'm trying not to say that old games hold up. More so it's like, no, it's just a good game. Good games are good games forever, that kind of thing. And BioShock is another one of those where I'm like, the setting of Rapture will never stop being awesome. Like
Right.
learning about what happened will never be bad. Shocking a dude and then hitting him with a wrench is always going to be cool, you know?
Every time.
There's a lot of shit in this game that's just really, really strong. And I do think it falls off a cliff near the end, but that doesn't tarnish the entire thing. I still think this is awesome. Where are you at? Again, you're replaying this again now too after years and years.
Yeah, it's been like well over a decade since I last played BioShock.
Yeah.
And I am kind of in the same thought process as you, as like I was going back to it and I didn't know if it was going to exactly hit like I remembered in my head. And to be frank, I don't often play my favorite games multiple times for this exact reason. I like to like keep my memory of it when I played it pristine, because I think as time goes on and you play more games, some of the cracks start to show as you kind of learn more and more about how games are made, or you see certain techniques over and over again. BioShock, like you said, is one of those games that kind of evades like feeling aged in most ways. Like I felt like playing through it, I could still really appreciate maybe some of the level design decisions that they chose, the combat decisions that they chose, and above all, like the story that they chose to tell within the game. I felt like it all felt like still very special and unique, despite, you know, being how many years later, right? Which is not always the case. Sometimes, especially when you have games that are so iconic and have inspired so many other games in the future, you go back and look and say, oh, well, you know, Breath of the Wild did this better, or this game did this better. And it doesn't really seem as impressive when you're in 2026. But yeah, BioShock just, there's something about the tone and like how they execute on every little part of the game, except maybe the end, which we'll get to. That just feels timeless, and it definitely 100% held up to my memory of the game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you'll go back and play one of those like landmark games, and BioShock is one of those. And sometimes you'll be like, well, games have been copying this for almost 20 years now, so I'm kind of tired of what this is doing. Like, I think there's some open world games that really, really have that issue for me. And I don't think a lot of games did copy BioShock or try to that much.
No.
But I don't go back to this and think like I'm sick of this. It's really hard to get sick of a narrative-driven 10 to 15 hour like action adventure game. You know, it's really hard to get tired of that. And so BioShock is right in that sweet spot. But like you said, all those little decisions they made about like the setting, we'll get into this detail soon. But all those things, a lot of them still really, really hit. And so it's nice. It's really nice to play an old favorite and come out of it being like, no, this shit is just, it's timeless. Like BioShock is timeless. Yeah. So we have a lot to talk about ahead of us. Let's take our first music break. And when we come back, we'll set up the story. We'll talk about the setting and things like that. In BioShock, you play as a man named Jack. First-person games, you never see Jack's face. Jack is just a guy you can self-insert just fine. Jack is in a plane flying over the ocean when suddenly the plane crashes. You wake up in the water near a lighthouse, and there's fire all around. And side note, the first and second time I played this game, I didn't know the cutscene was over because the water effects, the fire effects and stuff were so cool. I just sat there in the water being like, all right, man, like, you just going to sit there? And then I was like, oh shit, I'm playing the game now. It happened to me when the game first came out, and it happened to me again in like 2019, the second time I played it. Really strong opening cutscene, I guess.
Yeah. This is one of those iconic moments where you start out in the water and you kind of make your way to the lighthouse to kind of kick all the events off, that it kind of, even just starting the game up, it kind of washed over me like, oh man, we're back. And
Yeah.
like there's already a tone being set here.
Yeah. It's really interesting. The remastered version that both of us played has director's commentary that you can find around the world. Interviews with Ken Levine and one of the other creatives by Jeff Keighley. So little Jeff jump scare when I booted up one of those first ones, because I forgot it was him doing it. They added that lighthouse, or the plane crash intro, really late, like within a couple months of the game launching, because like playtesters were like, I don't feel connected to my character or something like that. They were like, okay, we'll put in this plane crash thing. They did it so late, and it became this iconic beginning to the game. Crazy how games work, how game development works, and stuff like that. So you go into that lighthouse, you find a bathysphere that takes you down into the underwater city of Rapture, which is now in disrepair. Once you're down in Rapture, a man named Atlas gets a hold of you over the radio, explains that Rapture is swarming with these mutated humans called splicers, and guides you through the city. And that's where we're going to kind of stop with specifics for right now. You move through the city, you learn about what's going on, you learn about what happened to Rapture, why it was built, why it's now in disrepair, why are all these splicers running around. You learn about the main creatives, the elites, the big movers and shakers in Rapture. And I think that there's like two big story things going on in Bioshock. Number one is learning that backstory, learning who these people are, the main players in Rapture, starting with Andrew Ryan. And then there's like the present day story, like when shit hits the fan and you got to go do the plot, you know? And I think that the former, that backstory, learning about Rapture, is just as compelling as it's ever been. Like, this setting is incredible, and then this backstory is really cool to uncover.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I love about this game is that, interestingly enough, it's so incredibly well paced, but at the same time, some of that pacing is organic because a lot of the story is told through these audio books. And I think Bioshock was one of the first games that really did audio logs in a really unique way. And obviously, ever since then, like, you see them all over in a ton of different games. But like you mentioned, from the plane crash to the bathysphere down to Rapture, just those first, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of that game do so much heavy lifting for setting the world. Like, I feel like it's really hit or miss with a lot of games, where sometimes a game will assume that you will just buy into whatever world they plop you in. This is the world. You are this random race or class, and you're going to go and save the world because whatever reason. Bioshock has like a ton of like little breadcrumbs, a ton of little small details that you see just entering the game, like whether it's the lighthouse and some of the details you'll see in there, or the statue or architecture, any of that, down to like just the way the splicers are presented. It's not like you walk up on an enemy and a tooltip pops up and it's kind of like information is washing over you. It like introduces almost every piece of gameplay and story in a way that is tied to the narrative. So yeah, I mean, like, in terms of immersion and in terms of just selling you on like the lore of Rapture, this game is like one of the greatest to do it even today. Like, this is a big complaint I have about modern games of like, okay, there's a lot of stuff happening in this world, but it's not really coming together in a cohesive manner. Bioshock really does a great job at like easing you into this world and setting up the stakes and the environment.
Yeah, you hop in that bathysphere, you get this like slow intro as you kind of go through the tube or whatever it's called, and you go by all these places in the city. You see the city down in the water. You see like a whale swim in front of it, and it's like this magical place. And then the bathysphere stops, and you immediately see like through the bathysphere window, you see a guy get attacked and killed by a splicer, and you're like, oh shit, that's not good down here. And you have that like it's like it's I don't know. BioShock's not a horror game like per se, but it's got a bunch of horror elements. There's some survival horror in the gameplay, and then the setting, I mean, it's all dark. There's these crazed people all around attacking. There's quite a good number of jump scares in the game. I got several times
There's
by
some
jump
iconic
scares
ones for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. um, so you're introduced to this setting, and it's just really fun to go through and see the different areas, see the environmental storytelling, and you do get a lot of it through those logs. I want to camp out on those logs for a second. System Shock 2 also did this, which was cool. I like this in theory, giving you the audio logs that give you the ability to walk around and like do other stuff while you listen. At its best in BioShock, it's happening when I'm like alone in a place and I can listen as I go around and root through trash cans and stuff like that. Do that goblin behavior. BioShock, there's so many containers to riff through. Yeah. And so you can listen to these audio diaries. The voice acting is really good throughout. Basically, everyone they throw on one of these audio diaries, voice acting is really good. You have a silent protagonist, so this is where you're getting all the story. Where this doesn't work for me is when combat is happening while an audio log is happening, or like Atlas calls you over the radio a lot and talks to you over the radio, and I can't focus on both. I can't. And it's not like combat's like super hard, but it's loud. There's security bots beeping, and there's rockets and shit. I just can't hear it. This is one of the things that I think is like it's annoying for a while, but it's like I can pick my spots to play the audio logs. Once you get into like the last quarter of the game, you're always in combat. Like combat never stops for the last couple hours of the game, and people are on the radio, and I'm picking up audio logs that have like the most crucial story revelations. And I can't fucking focus. So I think this is like good most of the time. It's a great idea. I just hate it when like I get interrupted from listening, because this game doesn't have like this enemy is here and once you kill it, it's gone forever. It just seems to like repopulate with people. So you're never like fully clear, especially if you're backtracking. If you kill everyone in a room, you're good. But you probably got to go back in the menu, turn the audio log back on and all that stuff. So this is cool, but I can't multi-focus like that. It's kind of a shame how often it becomes an issue as you go, at least for me.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to like think about my experience with that towards the end of the game, but because like you said, they are talking to you a lot at the end of the game as like revelations start to come out, and more characters start to come into the picture. I would say like the first half of the game, or maybe 75%, the like, I don't know, present day audio interruptions are few and far between. It's usually like one or two or three throughout the level, or maybe like somebody will check in after you clear a specific area. So up through there, I feel pretty good about the audio logs. And like something I really like about them is, yes, the voice acting is really good. And also they give you a little photo at the bottom and the name of the person who's speaking, which also is really nice. So it makes it really easy to track what's going on and what's like the stories that are being told to you through these logs. And also there's like a nifty little feature where if you do get interrupted, which that happened a handful of times to me when I was listening to an audio log and like I triggered like a main story beat or whatever, you can double tap A or like tap and hold A to like re-trigger the last audio log you picked up, which made life a little bit easier for me as well, to be like, okay, Atlas, whoever interrupted, let me just double tap and play what I missed, which was nice. But yeah, like I was saying, like in terms of like the pacing and like, it's just really weird how it works out to there's just the right amount of audio logs in all the rooms that you're exploring to where you feel like you're getting a pretty steady drip of information at any given time. Despite the fact that you are a silent protagonist and the dialogue in present day is a little sparse for all of the context that you need to know about this game, there's a really great amount of audio logs, and it kind of reminds me of like Control, which is slightly more modern, but there was so much content in these like redacted files and all these like bureau files that really help fill the world out. And without the audio logs, I think Bioshock would be like such a completely different game. Like the audio logs, in my opinion, do a lot of heavy lifting for my enjoyment of the experience.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably loop back on this when we talk about the combat and stuff, but I think that for me, the most compelling thing about Bioshock is learning about Rapture.
Yes.
So those audio logs basically always give you some sort of Rapture backstory, whether it's from like there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 like main Rapture elites that you hear a lot of audio logs from, but you do hear a lot from just like regular ass people. And just hearing that little slice of like what their life is like in Rapture, or like, you know, often it's like the 30 seconds before they die or something like that too. But all of that really fills out that world in a really cool way. And it's a world that you really want to learn about. Rapture is one of the coolest video game settings of all time, just, you know, without hesitation. Underwater city, just cool, first of all. And there's like the founding of Rapture and like the socio-political economic belief system behind why Rapture was founded is really interesting. And then obviously it all fell apart. So learning about where they started and then figuring out how they got to the point where it all fell apart is really cool. And that's what those audio logs go into. So a brief kind of like overview for anyone who didn't play Bioshock. Rapture was founded by a business tycoon in the 40s named Andrew Ryan. So this is like alternate history here. Ryan was tired of interference from governments and church and other people who want a piece of him. And he decided to found his own city built on the idea that people should live unrestricted lives and reap the benefits of their work without interference, without taxes, and things like that. Ryan's ideology is really inspired by Ayn Rand and objectivism. Basically, pulled from Wikipedia, I'm not a philosopher, but the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity. And that is what Andrew Ryan is all about. You see the sign when you go in the lighthouse at the beginning says, "No gods, no kings, only men." And there's you hear these propaganda messages from Andrew Ryan saying like, should a man not be entitled to the entire fruits of his labor? The government says I want some, the church says I want some, and I say no. He has this great like old timey. Should a man not be entitled to the fruits of his labor over the radio? It's so good. And then learning about the other people in there, but like this is a thing that like I can imagine myself in college like playing this and being like, yeah, Andrew Ryan's right. Should I not be entitled to the fruits of my labor without, regulation and stuff like that? And then you see how it all plays out. You're like, oh no, that's fucking bullshit. Like regulations exist for a reason, right? So it's really cool to see how this all unfolds from that starting point, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just a really interesting and compelling premise, especially living in America. And it's kind of like Americanism to the extreme, which is interesting because I feel like typically when you talk about like governmental structures or whatever, the main one is communism, and everyone says, oh, communism never works. Like it sounds nice in theory, but it never works. Mm-hmm. And I think Bioshock kind of flips it on its head and like takes capitalism to the extreme and says like, doesn't this sound really cool? And honestly, you do hear some of Andrew Ryan's quotes and you're like, oh dang, he's kind of like going hard with some of these quotes. Like he's really well spoken, right? Like, so it's easy to see how people can get moved by his message. And I love like you said, all the propaganda. It's very well done in that it doesn't really feel ham-fisted, right? It really is, but it's, written in the form of propaganda, so it's supposed to feel ham-fisted. You know what's going on. But it's not like trying to overtly teach you a lesson about what's going on, because like you said, depending on who's playing this game and where they are in their life, they might feel strongly about some of the messages that Andrew Ryan is saying, or you might feel conflicted about how things transpire in the story. It's not like the game is holding your hand and trying to feed you a message directly through the lens of, like, I don't know, whatever writing that they have. It really does a great job of like setting up the rise and the fall of this society and kind of adding question marks on like, why did this really happen? Like, what were the faults in the system that truly caused this thing to collapse? And you think about that through the entirety of the game, even when you end it.
Yeah, the different like the different chapters in like the first half of the game basically take you to these different disciplines and different like slices of this thought process. Like, you go see this idea applied to medicine, and then you go see it applied to art, and then you see it applied to capitalism and economics. And though you get like these main like side characters that are kind of like the heads of these areas. And there's some really famous ones, like Sander Cohen, the artist, is one of the biggest like set piece things in the game. And it's taking that idea of like, okay, we're going to give this, you're an artist. You have no moral like systems holding you back. You have no regulations holding you back. Whatever your fucked up idea of art is, go do it. It doesn't matter. This is Rapture. You can do whatever you want. And then you see how that all played out. One of the cool things that I noticed about those side characters is it's a pretty diverse group. You got a lot of foreign accents in there, which is noteworthy. You have like Suchong has like an East Asian accent. Tenenbaum is German. Atlas has an Irish accent. So it's kind of like the idea of Rapture is the best and the brightest come to Rapture to live unregulated. Although no black people in Rapture, not a single one, I don't think. Not a side character, not a splicer. I don't think there's a single one.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah. This was the game takes place in the 60s. So I don't know if Ken Levine and company were doing social commentary on like, what are the elites in the 1940s who are they gonna bring into the city or whatever. But it's something I noticed when I was like, oh, diverse cast. No black people though.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I feel like this is a game that seems like it wouldn't shy on commentary about that. Like, you would expect to hear Andrew Ryan maybe make a comment on why he didn't invite any black people to Rapture or whatever. And I would be like, oh, that would make sense. But yeah, there's just no black people. And I think the weird part about it is, if I might be wrong in this, I don't think I'm wrong, but in Bioshock 2, in one of the DLCs, there's a black scientist that's in Rapture. Okay. Which I'm like, okay, so Bioshock 2 is still technically in the same era as Bioshock 1.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just kind of like an oversight, or like this was not necessarily meant to be a commentary, or else they probably would have addressed it thematically within the story. So I don't know. That part is like, I can also see Andrew Ryan being racist. Like, I can 100% see that.
Yeah, he's a fucking billionaire in the 40s. He probably was racist.
Yeah, I'm almost guaranteed. Yeah.
I don't like, definitely I don't attribute it to anything like malicious on 2K's part. It could be just like a silent commentary, just something like, if you notice it, you notice it. But we're not going to make a huge deal about it. I think that focus of like, what's wrong with this this ideology of like no regulations, no restrictions, ultra capitalism, like that's the focus of the story. That's the main thing we're exploring here. It was just something I noticed when I started to realize like, oh, the cast, they seem to be from all over, but yeah. One of the other famous things about Bioshock, story-wise, is the little sisters and the big daddies. The big daddies on the cover of the game. It's the big thing in the diving suit with the giant drill. They are your main boss fights throughout the game. They're kind of roaming. They're around. There are like set piece boss fights against them too. But they're also this fucked up part of the story of Rapture is like, why do these things exist? And they exist because the thing that gives you magic powers, which we'll talk about later, is the substance called Atom that can rewrite your genetic code. And they did some weird transmuting process on these little girls to turn them into atom harvesting machines. They go around, they harvest atom from dead bodies, and they're protected by these big daddies. And after you fight them in the game, you always have a choice. This was a big thing about Bioshock back in the day, and this is a big criticism of Bioshock now. The choice. After you beat the big daddy, you can harvest the little sister to get a bunch of atom for yourself, so you can spend on your own genetic upgrades, or you can save the little sister for less atom, but you're doing a good thing. And this is something that I am going to just like say. This choice is not real. It is you get the same thing no matter what you pick. It's just a little delayed gratification if you save the little sister. And this is a big criticism of BioShock because like this is role playing. This has a gameplay effect on it, and it's one of the major like choices that you do. Like choices in video games were becoming a bigger thing back then, like a real talking point. And BioShocks are not real, really. So, how do you feel about this? Like, think back to the first time you played. Did those
Yeah.
choices work on you? And like one of my questions is like, if they did work, is the illusion enough to make them interesting? Or did it just kind of fall apart?
Yeah. In this case, ironically, I think it does work. And I say
Okay.
ironically because I think the fact that I get the delayed gratification of like, you're getting a make good for the atom that you're foregoing. If I did not have that, I would honestly probably be a little pissed because
Oh, okay.
I don't think that the story itself really has enough nuance or enough like, a difference to really make it seem like your actions to save the little sisters were that justified. Because it kind of like comes down to what most games come down to, where it's like, okay, at the end we'll give you like a little cutscene. We will maybe swap out a couple different like short sections of the game, but for the most part, you're getting pretty much the same game. So first and foremost, obviously the decision itself is just fucked up. Like harvesting a little girl to get extra bonuses or whatever it just makes you feel icky, which I think
Right.
psychologically is like does great things.
Right.
Or
But I will say, in the game's credit, Rapture is really dangerous, and they tell
yes.
you like you're gonna get more power if you harvest the girl, and look how fucked up this place is. You need that power, and like
Yeah.
I think they sell that decently well. But yeah,
They also sell the little sister just being absolutely terrified pretty
yeah,
well. Like when you finish a Big Daddy boss fight and the little sister's like, please just wake up, my guardian, I need you.
yeah,
And you're like harvesting a little sister and it's just like, they do not hold back on like, yeah, you're kind of a terrible person, but you get these plasmids.
hmm,
I will say if my wrench wasn't so strong, maybe I would think twice about it. But yeah, like I said, I think if the story kind of advanced a little more dramatically based off of those decisions, I feel like the delayed gratification would be worth it because then I would say, oh, okay, like I did forego, the game was harder, but I changed the story this dramatically because of it throughout the journey. Whereas if it's like, okay, I like harvest everybody, but I can just look up something on YouTube or vice versa. It's like, okay, I'll just I'll just save everybody. It makes me feel good.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. So there's two reasons why I think that this is not great in execution. The first reason, like you said, is it barely changes the rest of the game. It just like the currency you get to spend at the Gatherer's Gardens. The thing that makes it not work so well for me is it's delayed gratification, but it's barely delayed. You find out
That's true.
really quickly that it was a fake choice, basically.
Yeah.
And I think if they had held that until you'll get like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of those gifts at the Gatherer's Gardens if you save the little sisters to like kind of make back the atom that you sacrificed by not harvesting them. So you get a lot of them. If they had like made that like 2 throughout the whole game, then
I see.
it would have felt like I was making a real sacrifice, and then I was getting like a really meaningful thing later on. But it's like you save the first one, you save the second one because you start seeing them all the time. There's like 3 in
Yeah.
each level. And then 30 minutes later I get the first gift and I was like, "Oh, okay, so it didn't really I haven't even seen another Gatherer's Garden in that time. Like I couldn't have spent all of that if I wanted to." So
Yeah.
just a little bit in the execution, I think. The first time I played it, like a real decision for me. Like I do need this, and I think the first time I played this, I did harvest probably half of the little sisters.
You
Uh,
monster.
I know, right? Because I need that power. I need to upgrade my electric shock. Um, so ultimately, I think there's like a lot of issues with this. It could have been better, I think, in execution. If it were up to me, I think kind of making it more spaced out, lessening the number of those hey, thank you for making that sacrifice. Here's what we owe you type of thing. Maybe one of those, 2 of those would have been better.
Yeah, like from my perspective, I would say if you're going to remove the gifts, which are in my head the reward, like if you take away the gifts in the game as is, the reward is, I guess, the ending. Like if you want to think about it that way, but I would have preferred if maybe there were no gifts, but your interactions with the big characters of the game like evolve depending on how you're treating these little sisters. Like if
Yeah.
it seems like, or maybe like your dependence on Adam changes how you can go about, tackling some of the missions or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think that slow progression of like maybe changing who you are, how you can, tackle certain situations would really make me feel like, oh, okay, like as I go, like the game is actively changing based on these decisions. Otherwise, like I said, at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, do you want to feel like you are fully equipped? Or like you said, do you want that? Are you willing to forego this level and not maybe make a purchase at the beginning of the level versus the end of the level or
Yeah.
whatever? So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the later Bioshocks, but I don't think they ever like actively evolve the game based on those decisions. It's usually like, either in the form of like currency that you get or like end of game cutscene type situation.
Yeah, it's been too long since I played both of the other ones for me to remember. But yeah, this
Yeah.
first one is like, do you want all your Atom points right now, or do you want half now and half in 15 minutes? That's kind of how it
Yeah.
feels. It's like it's
Yeah.
not far enough to feel like a real choice. I guess we can talk about gameplay now that we're on the subject. Like, the Atom that you're getting is the stuff that you're using for the superpowers that you get,
Plasmids.
the plasmids, that they rewrite your genetic code so that you can like shoot out electricity. There's a bunch of them, like flamethrower. There's the one you mentioned where you shoot out a cloud of bees and they chase enemies around. There's one that freezes enemies and then you can like shatter them with your wrench because you have so it's like your right hand is your wrench or your gun, and then your left hand is your plasmids. And so you're kind of dual wielding these 2 things, which is really cool. You start the game with the electric shock plasmid, or you get it really quickly. and you start the game with the wrench. And so like it's System Shock DNA. You start the game with a wrench. Every game that's calling back to System Shock always gives you a wrench at the beginning of the game. And this kind of opening thing, I think even before you get a gun, or maybe you have a pistol by then, but this opening 1-2 punch of shock an enemy, they'll go all paralyzed, then you run up and whack them with the wrench. Great way to start this game off and let you know about like the gameplay right at the beginning. It never stops being satisfying to just take someone out with the wrench.
Surprisingly, I feel like Bioshock to this day is probably one of my favorite like first person combat systems. Like for so many reasons. I feel like even just down to the animations of like how the plasmids work, like switching them out and how they kind of appear when you switch them out, or just how they look when you hit an enemy. I think for the time they look very well done, and even now today I feel like it still kind of looks very unique and stylized compared to some of the other like spell system combat systems that we see today. And also, like you said, just the way that they handle certain attacks and abilities. Like you said, the 1-2 punch is iconic, and I use that the entire game. That never stops being effective, outside of a few splicers being already electrified, and in which case I can't really shock them, but I'm like, hey, I'll just hit you 20 times instead of 3. It doesn't matter. But yeah, like it's a really cool system, and I like that it comes in the form of plasmids. It's not like your typical spell system, and they really put their own little spin on it to like really feel like, I don't know, it really feels home in this like Rapture dystopia. Also, I also want to quickly point out that another thing that kind of freaked me out as a kid is that you are literally like injecting these syringes into you, whether you're healing or like increasing your mana or plasmid or your Eve, I guess. And that's like such a weird and interesting and somewhat disturbing like imagery in terms of like a first person shooter. Like it almost feels comical to the point of like, this is what people think video games are. You're injecting yourself with syringes. Like it's wild.
It is. And it plays into the story too. Cause like you learn about Adam, you learn about its effects on the body. The splicers are like the main enemy that you fight. There's a bunch of different types, but they're people who they used so much Adam, and now they can't find enough to like keep it going. Cause it's addicting. Like physically addicting. And now they're these kind of monsters who've like lost control. And you're doing the same thing. You're just jamming these things into your arm all the time. So it kind of gets you thinking like, this is a kind of brutal thing that I'm doing. Also, how's this going to work out? Cause I'm doing it a lot, I've got, you finish the game and you have like 15 of these different plasmid attacks you can do. What did you like to do, with these, like, well, I guess we could talk about plasmids and then talk about guns, but what were your favorite plasmids? We both talked about the electric shock. That's the bread and butter, but what other ones do you like to go with?
I'm going to be honest with you. 90% of this game, I use the electric shock. I almost never swap to a different plasmid. If I did, like the whole game, I only had 3 plasmid slots at a given time. And I had the electric shock on. I had fire, which I use every now and again, and also for some of the like environmental obstacles. And I also had telekinesis, because I love telekinesis. Was like a multi-purpose plasmid where I'd use it to either pull objects close to me. I would use it to set off traps with like, dead bodies or whatever. Or
catch rockets out of the air.
Catch rockets or explosives and send it flying at people. The telekinesis was so satisfying. So those are my 3. There is a point in the game where you get to experiment with a variety of the different plasmids that are in the game. And like freezing is always very satisfying when you shatter somebody after they're frozen solid. The effect on that is very great. And like I mentioned at the top, the bees, they're not as effective as I wanted them to be in combat, but it is hilarious. Just throwing
very funny.
A nest of bees at somebody.
Yeah, it's very fun because they'll like chase them around, and the splicers will like run away, and the bees will chase them. It's really good. I want to clarify, like when I say the Atom is addicting, I mean like it is it rewrites your genetic code, and your genetic code then becomes unstable if you don't get more Atom. And that's why
Yeah.
the splicers are like, they all like have powers too. Even if they're just, they can jump really high or run really fast or whatever. So that's what's going on there. So for me, I use the electric shock most of the time. It's just too good. Big daddies are weak to electricity, so like it's great to kind of freeze them in place. Basically, most splicers are weak to it. I like the bees as well, and then I use the frenzy plasmid from
Oh,
time to
really?
time too.
Okay.
If there's like 4 or 5 splicers in a room, frenzying one of them is a big help to just kind of take some pressure off of you. And there's also a plasmid that will turn a big daddy onto your team.
Yeah,
Because there's,
hypnotize Big Daddy. Very
yeah,
good.
especially late in the game, there's a bunch of like fights where it's like there's a bunch of splicers and then there's just like a random big daddy wandering around. And if you can
Yeah.
get the big daddy on your team, it like makes it so you can just go like make a sandwich and let the big daddy take care of everybody.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot too. And then you have the guns also, and there's an assortment of guns. Basically, your FPS standards, whatever you think is here, it's probably here. Except there's no sniper rifle. You get a crossbow. That's your
Yeah.
kind of precision long range weapon. What gun did you roll with?
The wrench. No, like
Best gun in
yeah,
the game, the wrench.
my favorite gun was the wrench, but usually if I was, because like there were some weapons like I literally didn't even touch, like the chemical thrower. I don't think I used once in this playthrough, but my typical strategy was a combination between the shotgun, the grenade launcher, and the crossbow.
Okay.
I used the shotgun for most like general combat scenarios if I needed it. But I had this tactic where I would always scout a Big Daddy out and I would use the trap bolts. I would set up maybe 3 or 4 trap bolts and 2 proximity mines at the end of that string of trap bolts. And I would try and like lure a Big Daddy to run through it all. And I'd probably say 7 times out of 10, they would die by the time they made it through all of that stuff. So that
Nice.
was always like my setup to like handle the Big Daddies. What about you?
Hell yeah. I mostly rolled with the shotgun. That was my bread and butter gun. You get different types of ammo too. So like the electric buckshot with the shotgun
Very
is
good.
really good for big daddies. And I use the machine gun a lot too. I didn't use the chemical thrower, and I only used the crossbow when I was out of ammo for other stuff. This game will limit your ammo in a way that you have to like kind of be picky about, like, do I want to pull a gun out, or is it like, can I get through this with the wrench, or
Yeah.
do I need a gun? Even late in the game when you're fighting all the time, I would have plenty of times where it's like, I got 2 shotgun shells, a couple of electric buck. I got to save that for something where I need that. So I'll pull out the chemical thrower because I haven't used it in 5 hours. I got a bunch of ammo for it. So I would pull out the crossbow and stuff in those situations. Now, you mentioning like laying those traps and stuff is part of a little bit of Immersive Sim DNA in this game. Remember you and I
Yeah.
talked like a couple years ago about how we both really like Immersive Sims, and this Bioshock obviously is in the lineage of System Shock. System Shock 2 is like one of the core Immersive Sims, and Bioshock like streamlines that stuff a lot. But when I say Immersive Sim, I mean like they give you a bunch of tools and a bunch of systems in the world that react in predictable ways, and then basically say, use your tools however you wish to get through this encounter. And so it's like, you fought the big daddies by laying traps and proximity mines and stuff like that. I fought the big daddies by using electric buckshot and, the electric shock and armor piercing machine gun rounds and stuff like that. I never set traps.
Yeah.
Giving you a bunch of tools, And the thing with immersive sims is the tools always have to work in predictable ways. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing. And this game does have stuff like that. Like if enemies are standing in water, if you shock the water, it will electrocute them. It works. It's not as like widespread and free as some others, like a
Yeah.
Dishonored or even System Shock 2. But I think this game does enough to like let you be creative with your tools to kind of like remind you where this came from, even if the series as the series went on, they kept streamlining and streamlining and streamlining until like Bioshock Infinite's just straight up an FPS. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, the game, I think the beautiful thing about BioShock 1 is that when you like are really discovering these levels and exploring, they're pretty large. Like these are pretty large, seamless areas that you get to explore. So as you continue to like, check out different areas of the map, you'll see places that the devs kind of have set up for you where it's like, hey, you want to take out a Big Daddy? Maybe you can lure them here because we have a lot of oil slicks and we have a lot of turrets here that you can pull on your side.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of different areas. Like I said, like sometimes I'll find a slim corridor and I'm like, this will be a great area to kite a Big Daddy through. There are sometimes like really open areas where like clearly you can have a big firefight. So like the game definitely gives you a lot of tools. And like you said, a lot of like very straightforward, hey, you can use this as like an environmental trap on your side or an environmental assist. I absolutely love the like security bot system that they have in the game where they will have turrets, cameras, and like these little drones that will either spot you or lock onto you and shoot you, but you can shock them or freeze them. And you can do this little hacking mini game, which
Oh yeah, let's talk about the hacking mini game.
Yeah, I'm very curious on your thoughts there. But like you can turn them on your side. So a lot of times I hacked everything. Like I would hack every single turret or camera or anything that I came across. And it's just so satisfying about like playing a game and like doing a big story beat and know there's going to be a wave of enemies coming and your camera gets set off and the alarm triggers and all these drones start coming out on your side or your turrets start shooting rockets at the enemies. Like it really feels like you can flip a situation in whatever way you want to like get your most optimal or preferred outcome as long as you take the time to really think about where you are and like how you want to set things up.
Yeah. So like those immersive sim elements work really well for combat, and they work really well in my opinion for level design, because there's a lot of times when I would explore a level, maybe I'd go through an area that was like it had some really hard fights in it and like I'm kind of struggling coming out the other side, and then like I'm poking around and I find this like if I move this grate, I could have bypassed that room and just gone straight somewhere else. And so like there is a bunch of stuff like that. The attention to detail is like really strong in those ways. As far as this game being more streamlined than other immersive sims, stealth is not really a thing that is like reliable. You can stealth, but you're not going to play this game as a stealth game. It's just not going to happen. You got to fight everything at some point.
Yeah.
And then like it's not like an RPG where you have like I can talk my way out of situations. Like that's absolutely never going to happen either. It is a combat game, but within that, you got a lot of tools, such as hacking. So let's talk about that. The hacking minigame is Pipe Dream, the old ass like Windows or DOS game. I can't remember. It's an old ass computer game, Pipe Dream, where you have a flow of water entering one side of the screen, and you have to place pipes in their different curves and stuff like that to direct the flow to a certain place where you want it to be. And that is the hacking mini game in here. I will say I like Pipe Dream. I like this hacking mini game. You do it too much. You just do it way too much. I like it the first 50 times I do it, and then I did it 150 more times throughout the game. But it's like you said, I hacked everything because hacking stuff to be on your side is so powerful. I wanted it. I needed it to, I need those turrets to be on my side. Otherwise they're shooting at me. Like, I need to turn the tide. So I find myself hacking a lot. I invest really heavily in plasmids that make hacking easier. so that I can like get it done faster or just have it be lower difficulty. Yeah, it's nice, but not for the whole runtime of the game. It's too much, I think.
Yeah, 100%. You definitely do it far too much, and they try and give you an out by giving you like these auto hack tools, but you can
Yeah.
only carry a max of 5, and there's just so much hacking in the game that it like barely makes a dent.
Yeah. And
Um,
you can also you can just pay
oh yeah,
money
that's
to
true.
hack it, which is funny. Like if you think about that in universe, like if I don't if I don't want that security camera to see me, I'll just slip a 20 into it and
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's
it's
like okay, we're
it's on
good.
my side now. Yeah, the security camera's like, "All right, we're cool, Dave." But it's, you know, you don't get that much money where you're like, "I'm just going to pay for every
No,
hack." So,
no,
yeah.
and you like I think kind of like there's a lot of limits on this game in terms of like they'll limit how much ammo you can hold. They'll
Mhm.
limit how much money you could have at a given time, which makes it a little more difficult. Like if there was an infinite, like if I had an infinite wallet, I would have so much money by the end of the game where I would buy out everything and not think about it twice.
Mhm.
But that's not the case, right? So you kind of have to be methodical about where you want to spend your money, where you want to use your hack tools, stuff like that. And yeah, like I enjoyed Pipe Dream enough, but there were some like, very hard hack. Like there's a little scale. It'll always tell you how hard the hacking game should be on a scale from like easy to very hard. And I attempted some very hard hacks, and there were some hacks where I'm like, I don't know how these are generated, but this one is just like impossible to do.
Yeah, it does
Like I'm
happen.
looking at it and I'm
Yep.
like, I just lose, and you take damage if you fail the hack too, or you'll
Yeah,
trigger
or
a
you set the
security bot or
alarm. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so that part was a little annoying. Where I'm like, okay, like what am I supposed to do? I don't know. But when you were talking about immersive sims, it kind of like it doesn't go all the way, but it does try and give you like the ability to be a hacker man build.
Yep.
Like you can't just get through all your issues through hacking because there aren't enough security bots set up around the map to where that's a viable option. But a decent chunk of the game you can like just get through by hacking. You can have a buff that gives you extra health when you hack as well, and you can hack basically everything: vending machines, health machines,
Mhm.
security bots, everything. So you can kind of become a little bit of a hacker man. One of my favorite things was to like intentionally trigger a security alarm, and they send out these little drones, and I would love to shock the drones down, hack the drones, and like 50% of the game I had a little like security bot entourage following
Nice.
me, just kind of like as my bodyguards, which made the game pretty easy. So I love that possibility is there.
Mhm. You can definitely do a lot with it. Like hacking vending machines makes items cheaper.
Yep.
It unlocks like new items that are not normally available for sale, which is cool. But yeah, you just do it too much. By the end of the game, I'm like, I'll just pay the extra $12 for
Yeah,
whatever I'm buying.
100%.
I'm not hacking this shit again. And as far as immersive sims go, I think the final say on whether this is an sim or not is you can flush the toilets. So
That's
that
true.
means it's an immersive sim. Uh, the judge's gavel falls. So, um, yeah, combat. I guess like the last kind of point about combat to me is I think that the combat balance, difficulty, enemy health versus my offensive stuff feels really solid for like 2/3, 3/4 of the game. This is like it's really there is a point where I feel like most of this game just falls off a cliff. And part of that is enemies become bullet spongy to very annoying levels. And like I
Yeah.
remember a time when in like a very late level, I was just sitting there unloading the machine gun into a regular ass dude for like 10 straight seconds. And I'm like, what is and his I can see his health like usually it like jumps along
Yeah.
like the circle health bar and it's like it's just very smoothly slowly going down. I'm like, what is this guy made? He's made of bullets now. That's what he's made of now. But I feel like that balance really falls off a cliff and there's a research mechanic where you get a camera, you take pictures of enemies, you get damage bonuses. That has diminishing returns the more you do it. So I stopped doing
Hmm.
it at a certain point, and like I feel like maybe the signaling with the research camera told me to stop doing it before I should have actually stopped doing it, or they just have too much health late in the game, or some combination of both. But I turned this game to easy at that point the last 2 times I've played it, where I'm like, this is just not, like, I'm fighting all the time. I can't spend a minute and a half on every splicer I fight.
Yeah. To answer your question, it's not the research, because I did max out almost
Okay,
all of the
all right.
splicers. But yes, similar to like you, there was like I said, I used my wrench almost the entire game and it worked flawlessly. You shock them and you hit them like twice, especially with all the upgrades, and they're down. But there is like, once you get to a specific level, I hit them with my wrench and their health barely went down. And I was like, oh no, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Like luckily, like I said, I really did have that security bot entourage almost the entire game whenever I could, find it. So at any given point, it was like 3 of us trying to gang up on a single splicer if I could have it. So like I managed to get through it decently okay just by, leveraging the security forces, but it does evolve to a point where it doesn't really make sense, like why the difficulty of the splicers jumped so, or why they gained so much health like all of a sudden, when like 75-80% of the game was way easier. I don't get that part at all.
Yeah, it felt really well tuned. Couple of solid wrench smacks will take down a basic dude. A couple of headshots with a pistol take down a basic dude, and then it gets to a point where it's like, I have the best ammo possible. My guns are upgraded.
Yeah.
Nothing's really doing much, and it just feels rough. The big daddies are always like a much bigger thing, so they always felt like a decent challenge to me. From the beginning to the end. A big daddy fight's a big deal. They're super powerful. Like, you can't let them get close to you, or they'll hit you. They'll like punch you and knock you across the level, or they'll hit you.
It's
with
like
the
anime
drill.
levels. Yeah. You're flying across the map.
Yeah. It's really good. I enjoyed like the planning and execution of like, how am I going to do a big daddy fight? But those splicer fights are, they become way less fun. Also, wanted to get your take on this. This game has checkpoints called Vita chambers where you, if you die, you just respawn in one of the Vita chambers, but it's not like restarting from a checkpoint. It's like you literally, you die, you respawn, and then you walk in and the same fight is happening. The big daddy has the same amount of health when you died, stuff like that. I kind of appreciate this from a like, don't make me redo parts of levels again. Don't make me redo the whole fight. But it does kind of make death meaningless, where like, I kind of started to think in certain situations where, maybe I'm fighting a big daddy and it's like, well, in a normal game, I would be like, oh, I'm about to die. I have to use a bunch of first aid kits, heal up, use the big gun ammo to like take him out. Whereas in Bioshock, I'm like, I could use the first aid kits, or I could just let it kill me. I'll come out of the Vita chamber and have all my first aid kits and full health. And then I'll just walk 2 rooms and ambush the big daddy again. Like it's a real weird thing.
Yeah. The Vita chambers, it's very odd, especially because even from like a lore standpoint, I'm like, I don't fully understand what's even happening here. Like this doesn't make any sense at all. Like, especially the way they animate it. It's like you die and you like see yourself like speeding towards the nearest Vita chamber, like your soul, like it's almost like your body is being reconstructed and your soul gets transplanted in some new body or something, but you have all your gear. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Nope. And to be honest, Bioshock is one of the games where I'm save scumming a lot, to the point where if I happen to die, and I don't like using the Vita chamber, it's kind of weird to me, where I'm like, okay, so I'm starting, but the fight is still going on. Chaos is still ensuing. Mm-hmm. I'd rather just restart where I last saved and try it again, because it's just, I guess no other game really does it. So it just feels odd to like, all right, time to get back into the existing fight. I don't know.
Yeah, it is odd. again, like I wonder if they were trying to stop this from being like a thing where it's like, because the game auto saves for you, but it's like not very often.
No,
And if
very
you're not
rare.
saving, if you're not manually saving often, then you could find yourself having to redo parts of levels if you die. And I
Yeah,
wonder if they just like didn't want you to have to do that. Like it's
probably.
annoying to have to do that. But the solution they came up with is real. It's weird to be in that thought process of like, I don't want to heal. It's better for me to just die and come out of the Vita chamber and save my first aid kits that
Yeah.
way. Super
And
weird.
also, like, I feel like typically you learn in a video game if you lose to reevaluate your strategy. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
got killed. Let me go back at it a different strategy. In this, it's like you die and it's like, oh, everything is still popping off. Let me just run back in there
Yep.
and like kind of figure it out on the fly. So,
Exactly. It's odd. So gameplay, I think, to kind of wrap this up, starts out really strong. The bread and butter of the gameplay is really fun, still really fun, and then it gets to a certain point where the tuning just goes awry, in my opinion, and it's kind of like I turn the game on easy because I'm tired of fighting these things that are bullet sponges. I'm tired of doing the hacking mini game. I just want to see the end of the story,
yeah.
and that's not great. It's not great to get to that point, but until that point, it's a really fun game, and there's this is one of those things that like, especially gunplay and stuff like that in older RPG ish games tend to not stand the test of time super well. But I think this feels good enough most of the time that, you know, I see a Big Daddy fight and I'm like, all right, let me take stock of what I have. This is going to be fun, but I got to plan first. And I love planning and execution and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this is good.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they definitely didn't overdo it. I think there are just enough weapons to where you can have a couple that you feel really strong about and use
Hmm.
those. And there's a decent variety of plasmids where, yes, you're fighting the same like 4 or 5 splicers over and over again, but you can always be creative in how you handle them if you want to, which is really cool.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm kind of surprised about is that typically when a game wants to make a bullet sponge, you would expect like a brute splicer to bust through the door and it's like, oh, these guys are a pain. But it's
Yes.
just like, I fought you splicer like 8 levels ago and you were nothing. Like, why
Hmm.
all of a sudden in this area you're so strong? I don't get it. So I mean probably cost wise it was easier to use 4 models instead of adding like an
Oh
additional
yeah.
2 models to evolve the game, but it's pretty funny.
You've got that. You've got the in lore explanation of just like, well, these dudes have
Yeah.
been in the atom more than the guys at the beginning of the game. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel good from a play perspective. A couple other things that we haven't touched on yet. I think the game looks great. Like, this is Xbox 360 is a weird generation for visuals, especially famously the piss filter generation. Bioshock
Yes.
has none of those problems. I think it's mostly because you are um, pretty contained inside of like single rooms, and they just kind of like they show out the window a lot, like you can see the ocean and stuff outside the window, but they don't have to show you a giant open world or something. So they
Right.
decorate the hell out of these rooms that you're in. They're great with environmental storytelling, graphics all over the place, posters, signs, stuff like that. And the result is that this is a really believable place. Like you walk in you can like walk in the back way into a place and take a look and be like, this looks like a bar, it looks like a diner or something like that. And then you go out the front, you're like, Fontaine's bar or whatever the fuck it's called, and you're like, oh, hell yeah. Like it's just a really believable spaces, which is another immersive sim thing. Like I'm creeping around in a rundown restaurant or somebody's apartments or something like that. They do all that stuff like super well here.
Yeah, the game has a strong tone and like I don't even know what word I want to use to describe it, but like the way everything feels purposeful. Like you can even walk into an area and you'll see a knocked over cash register. And sure, sometimes it might be because it's just a dystopia and the place has been abandoned for a while. But
Hmm.
sometimes you'll listen to an audio log and you'll realize that, oh, this person's last moments were like due to a struggle, or maybe somebody came in and killed this person or tortured this person, and you kind of see the last moments
Hmm.
of of the scene. Like there are dozens and dozens of those little areas within the game, and like you it really does a great job at setting the dichotomy of like the world you're picturing in your head as you listen back to these audio logs of when things were actively popping and things were still pretty prosperous
Hmm.
versus what you're seeing this environment
Yeah, that's a
turned
great point.
into, like, you know, in real time, right? So um I feel like this game once again is like one of the better games to do that, where it's very clear, black and white, to see like the picture that they're painting. Whereas sometimes the lore is just so expansive, and they're talking about something that happened so long ago that it's really hard to even connect the dots about like how that thing is impacting the world you're in now. But BioShock is so contained in terms of like the map that it all kind of comes together really well.
Yeah, you can definitely picture what things were like when Rapture was nice, so to
Yeah.
speak, like before the revolts and stuff like that. Um and it's really cool to just go through the different areas cuz like you said, like a lot of the areas are kind of centered around one main character and their field. You have the artists area with the theater, with the art exhibition. You have the medical area with like the fucked up plastic surgeon or the fucked up dentist because everyone got fucked up at some point in Rapture. And you go through like what does a dystopian rundown dental facility look like, and they did the work, like the art team did the work to like really sell those spaces to you. And then like you said, you find dead bodies, you listen to their audio logs, you listen to how they died, and it's always like, you know, the body's right there, there's blood everywhere, like you can see it all and you can picture how things were. Like I love one of the parts that suffers late in the game is you get to go in the apartments, like the elites apartments, like the
Yeah.
big named characters apartments. And it's like, it's fun to wonder, like, this apartment would have been so kick ass, like before this all went to shit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bummer because you're always fighting and you can't focus on the apartments when you're in there. But like they did the work to make these spaces and make them look cool. The architecture, like the design and stuff, is really great. According to Wikipedia, it's Art Deco. I don't know shit about architecture, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert there. But like very nice looking, very opulent looking places.
Yeah.
And you still see the remnants of that. So really cool visually. And like, you know, we played the remastered version, but like this game, it's not a game where you play and you're like, the graphics are not selling this. Like
Right.
it's really strong art direction. It doesn't need to be super photorealistic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely like a stylized aspect to it where it kind of almost feels like a period piece, where like you see some of the fonts and kind of like some of the clothing that you'll see on mannequins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you'll kind of really get a good idea of like, okay, this game wasn't trying to be cutting edge at the time. It was trying to sell like a specific time, a period in time,
Yeah.
to match the game. So, yeah, it looks great even today.
Yep. Speaking of selling a period in time, the soundtrack does a lot of that too. So we mentioned an original score by Gary Scheinman, which is a lot of like horror type atmospheric stuff going on. Like you'll have this orchestral cacophony going on. You're just like, everyone's just going fucking nuts on their instruments. Um, you got a bunch of like those really shrill strings that, you know, horror media will use to just kind of spook you and set that tone. But so that goes into that horror feel of BioShock. But you also have this licensed music. There's a lot of licensed songs from the 30s, 40s, and 50s that you can hear around. I feel like if you're a video game set in this time period, you have to have the ink spots on your soundtrack. And
Yep.
Bioshock does. It has a couple of ink spots songs. Some other names I picked out. They've got Bing Crosby. They've got Billie Holiday. It's a pretty big licensed soundtrack from this time period. Sets that era really, really well, just like the Fallout games from this era did. And like from this era, I've played a lot of 2K published games, and this is 2K developed, but like 2K was paying for licensed music, and it really hit in a lot of these games back in the day, back in this time period. So I like that music. I like listening to the Ink Spots and Bing Crosby and stuff. But in this, where they're trying to sell you like this is a place, this is a time, it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can say it better than that. Like in terms of like the one game that I think about that does like the time setting just as well as like you mentioned Fallout, where it really does feel like you're transported back to old times and like just hearing the stuff on the radio. There's like this weird juxtaposition of like hearing these songs that kind of are cheery in nature just by the tone of the singer sometimes,
Yeah.
but also having like the discordant strings and stuff that are coming naturally from the OST. It's just a really juxtaposition that's really unsettling. Kind of like the vision I see is like, oh, somebody was here having a great time listening to their music and something horrific happened to these people before they could even stop the scene, right? So the
Yeah.
scene is kind of like frozen in time when you come and check it out. But the game is still trying to tell you, yeah, this is not a happy time because we're going
No.
to play all these scary strings.
Yeah, dude, this image just popped in my head. This memory of like just going through this fucked up area. There's security bots, there's splicers, there's dead bodies everywhere, there's blood all over the walls, and the soundtrack is like, how much for that doggy in the window? It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
most quaint ass song that's ever been recorded, juxtaposed with what's going on. It's a great great observation there. So I think that's about as much non-spoiler stuff as we got. We got a lot of spoilers to get into as well. So let's do our wrap ups here, recommendations. Normally, the normal question in this situation is, do you recommend people play BioShock, and who would you recommend play it specifically? Safe to say that both of us do strongly recommend this game. It stood the test of time, and it will continue to stand the test of time in a lot of ways. But is there a specific like type of person that you think would connect with this the most?
I know we said this game isn't a horror game, but you have to have like a little bit of a stomach to be jump scared a little bit or just
Yeah.
like, walk through eerie settings because the game is a little bit scary in that vibe.
Yeah, it's also gory too.
Also very gory. So you got to be ready for that. But if you really love like a well thought out story with a lot of lore and everything that can kind of build upon itself, Bioshock is the perfect game. I think this is one of the greats in that vein. So if you want a great story that has withstood the test of time, and obviously it also has one of the most iconic plot twists in gaming, you got to check this one out. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I would, unless you just really hate FPS, that's the only type of person, or if you can't stomach gore or something like that. Everyone else, if you haven't played BioShock, like it's one of those games that if I were to make a list of like 50 or 100 games that every video game fan should play once, even if it would probably be different from my own personal favorite list, but like the most essential list, I think BioShock's on that list. Like this is an essential game. It's really just if you hate FPS, if you can't handle those horror things you talked about, that's about it. I mean, if you love cool settings in games, Rapture is one of the coolest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a good ass game. I don't have like a bunch of qualifiers, just a really good game. You should play it if you haven't. So before spoilers, let's talk a little bit of housekeeping stuff here. So We always start this before we get into spoilers by talking about the work that the guest does. And so, as I said at the top, Joseph is part of 2 podcasts, Crossplay Conversations, which your co-hosts Jacob and Luke have been on the show before, so people may have heard them. But it's your turn to talk about that show now. And then you have Player Podcast and the YouTube channel, Can't Pause. So a lot of work. Tell the people about it, please.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Crossplay Conversations, show I do with Jacob McCourt, Luke Lewis, and now Claire Helmberger is regularly on the show with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of like an indie-focused podcast. We talk a lot about indie games and kind of maybe the state of the industry and whatnot every now and again. We recently... we have like a game of the year discussion every year at the top of the year. So if you want to know our tastes, that's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have guests on sometimes, or we'll talk about our favorite games, indie roundups, stuff like that. Player Podcast is more of like my goofy show that I do with one of my longtime buddies back from college. So a lot of times we break episodes into 2 episodes a week. One where we just talk about life, what's happened to us this week, fun stories, stuff like that, non-gaming related. And then usually we'll talk about big stories that happened in the past week, or certain topics that we're interested in, or games that we've played. And it's kind of like a shoot the shit podcast. So it's kind of just like us 2 guys just chilling, having fun, joking around.
Mm-hmm.
And then my YouTube channel, Can't Pause, is usually about highlighting indie games. So not a lot of fat on that one. I'll talk about an indie game for a little bit. And you can usually jump over there and boot up a video or boot up like a bunch of the reels and just see if you know about any of those games. And it's kind of like a quick way to expose people to games they may have not played before. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, a lot of good work out there. I've been a guest on Crossplay Conversations before, had a good time chatting with you guys over there. And, it's a really good crew over on that show. And then your YouTube channel, I often find it when I'm in the pit of just scrolling through reels, one of yours will pop up and I'll be like, shit, it's Joseph. And he's telling me about a game that I've like not heard a whole lot about. And I love when that happens. Even as much attention as I pay to video games, you do surprise me pretty often. So I love to see that too. So we give the recommendation, of course, for everyone to check out all the things that you're doing, some, different stuff in each place. So whatever you're looking for, please go check it out. And I'll put links down in the show notes for Crossplay Conversations, Player, and Can't Pause on YouTube. And yeah, find something you like. The music is going to play for spoilers soon, so during that music break, go find something. And I did most of my plugs at the top of the show. The last one is the Discord server, which is open to the public. If you want to come in and chat, we would love to have you in there. There's an invite link down in the show notes for that. Come talk about Bioshock this week. There's going to be some stuff in the spoiler section that we don't talk about because there's a whole lot of story in here, too much for one episode. So if you got something cool that we missed, come in and say hey, and let's chat. Let's talk Bioshock. So with all that being said, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Bioshock. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Bioshock, I'd like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. A big hearty thank you and shout out goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Aaron, Squill, Alan Kress, Doug T., Retro Overdrive, One of Many Tots, Magic Crow, Offshore Meteor, Curly Bright, Ian L., Steve Yeager, Trash Dog Actual, Matthew Maloney, Delaney and Jack McBride, Ethan Young, Michael Lassen, and many more. These fine folks have chosen to kick me a few bucks a month over at patreon.com/realdavejackson, to help support the work that I do, and it's greatly appreciated. And in addition to my everlasting love and respect, they are getting some treats in return. So if that sounds cool to you, head over to patreon.com/realdavejackson. And with that being said, let's get back to the full spoiler section for Bioshock. All right, we're back, and it's full spoiler time for Bioshock now. And a couple of quick disclaimers at the top here. Number one, we're not going to go in a linear way through the story. We never do that on the show, very rarely, but in case this is your first time, we're not doing that. We're going to spoil the big twist very quickly. So don't, no, that's not how you say that. Please go play the rest of the game. Come back if you're worried about spoilers. And then the second part is, there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of backstory. We're not going to talk about everything. We've got some bullet points on some of the big NPC stories and stuff like that, but we're going to miss something. So I never pretend that I'm an expert on whatever game I'm talking about. And that's the case today too. So with that being said, let's talk about that big twist. And if I were a better, more prepared podcaster, I would have thrown a few would you kindlies in the plugs. Would you kindly go to patreon.com and stuff like that? But I didn't. So here we are. Let's talk about the game's big twist. This is that thing that I wondered. Like, you always wonder with a game that has a big famous twist, or a story that has a big famous twist, does the story still hit if you know the twist? Or if you know a big plot point, for example. Like, I remember being spoiled on something from Star Wars because I was a few days late getting to a theater, and I was like, shit, am I still going to enjoy the movie? I still liked it. And that's the case in Bioshock too. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like knowing the twist only helps you see the foreshadowing for the twist. And yeah, you're not like floored by it like I was the first time I saw it, but I think this shit still worked.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, now I can actually like pinpoint the exact locations where it's all kind of building up to the big reveal. So it hit. Definitely, jaw wasn't on the floor, but obviously, so it was great.
Right. So that twist, in case anyone didn't play it, or if you haven't played in a while, is Atlas, the guy who's been leading you over the radio, is not Atlas. He's a different guy. His name is Frank Fontaine, and he's impersonating somebody else because he wants you to go kill Andrew Ryan. And you're on a collision course with Ryan throughout the game kind of anyway, because Ryan doesn't like this interloper in his city. He's losing control of the city. He's lost control of the city. And now you're here fucking shit up. And he doesn't like you being there. And so you're on a collision course with him anyway. And you find that throughout the course of the game, whenever Atlas has given you an objective to go to a different place, he always uses the phrase, would you kindly? Would you kindly go to this area and find Sander Cohen? Would you kindly get to the bathysphere, et cetera, et cetera? And it turns out that you were genetically engineered in Rapture. Your character, Jack, is Andrew Ryan's illegitimate son. And you were taken in by some of these other scientists and elites in Rapture, and you have become this genetic weapon, basically, that is hard-coded to follow directions perfectly with that key phrase, would you kindly? So you eventually get to a point where, Fontaine, Atlas, over the radio, says, would you kindly go in there and kill that son of a bitch? And then you go in there and you kill Andrew Ryan. This is interesting in a couple of ways, just story-wise. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting twist on what's been happening. I mean, it's also an interesting twist on, or an interesting take on player agency in video games. This is how basically every video game works. You do what the game tells you to do, and you don't think twice about it. And lots of games have played with this idea that you're like, you did this thing because someone told you to, and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I'm playing a game. I'll do that. And then later it might get thrown in your face. It might spin out of control, and consequences are things that you didn't want to happen. And in this case, you just kind of watch as you're like, well, I'm not sure that I want to kill Andrew Ryan with a golf club, but
Yeah.
I'm watching it happen. So, I don't know. What's your take on this? I guess from either of those perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think at the time it was iconic, and now even playing it back, it's still really cool. Um, like the game or the developers kind of being like, "Good boy, you did exactly what we wanted you to do."
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment that they reveal it to you, they legitimately take away your agency. Now that you know the twist, it's like, we'll make sure that your character still carries out what he was programmed to do. And I love like the little speech Andrew Ryan gives right before you kill him,
Yeah.
where he talks about like the freedom of man, and he has the iconic line of like a slave obeys, but a man chooses. And I think that kind of encapsulates the entire game, that a slave obeys, but a man chooses line, because like it culminates to everything Andrew Ryan has built. And like, you seem like you're walking in on the story at the downswing, and you're just trying to help this guy Atlas. And it turns out that this was all inner politics. You were just another tool in the civil war that's happening between Andrew Ryan and Frank Fontaine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like a what is happening moment. Like when you play that for the first time, you're like, you think the game is almost over. You probably think, I'm going to go in there, maybe have a boss fight and see credits roll. And actually there's like another 25% of the game. It's just like everything about it takes you back. And I like how, if done right, depending on who's playing, it kind of creates this anger that you have towards Frank Fontaine that really kind of once again aligns to what the actual character is probably feeling, where it's like, holy shit, like this guy absolutely screwed me and brought me into this thing that I like literally had no business being into. So yeah, I love it. I love their take on like player agency and how they tie it into the story and everything.
Yeah, I've heard criticisms of this as like a you have no agency, and then the game is like making fun of you for not having agency or something like that. But it's like the criticism is that like your only agency here is do what you're told or turn the game off, and that's not an
Yeah.
interesting choice. But I don't know, I'm able to just be like, it's not me, it's the guy that I'm playing as.
Yeah.
I'm playing as Jack, and Jack has no agency, and it's fucked up what they're doing to Jack. It's There's a separation that like makes it work for me in most of these cases. And like, I think it's okay for Bioshock to just kind of point at how silly it is that you just follow directions blindly in video games. And
Yeah.
it's rarely called out that like Jack doesn't say to Atlas, like, hey, what do you mean? Like, I should go do this right now. Like, that
Right.
doesn't seem like something I want to do. So it's fine by me. I think it's really creative. I think it's really clever, and it was seeded really well. Like once you know that it's coming, if you replay the game, they led up to this really, really well. I thought it was really nice. Um, did you watch any of those director's commentary videos?
Not this playthrough. I listened to them a really long time ago, but
Okay.
I forgot everything. So hit me with something.
Yeah, there's a really good developer's note here that they were talking about specifically with Atlas, because they need you to trust Atlas as your kind of quest giver over the radio and stuff like that. And the original version of Bioshock, Atlas had like a real Southern drawl. They compared it to Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh
And
Lord.
playtesters didn't trust Atlas. They were like, I don't like this guy. And they like thinking in their head of like where this is going. They're like, oh shit, they have to trust Atlas. Like otherwise it's going to fall on their face. So they switched it to an Irish accent to be more trustworthy. And it worked. Atlas is like super chummy. He
Yeah.
seems like a good dude when you first meet him. He's got like the stories telling you about like his wife and kids are on this submersible and just meet me at the submersible. And then like Andrew Ryan blows up the submersible and he's like, oh, Moira.
My
And
family.
yeah. and it's really well done. And then as soon as you kill Andrew Ryan, the facade falls 100%, and it's Frank Fontaine, and he's like, "Good job, kid. You outlived your usefulness. Now you gotta die." And then he does that cool shit. Like there's like this section of the game where you're trying to break the programming that Fontaine put in you, and you're going through, you're trying to find this cure, and he's like messing with your plasmids, and like they're randomized. It's like kind of cool. There's he's supposedly like able to stop your heart by
Yeah.
using like a passphrase or whatever. And I don't know, really cool like story section. This is where the gameplay just stops being
Yeah.
fun for me.
Yeah.
Basically, after you kill Andrew Ryan, you're always fighting until the end of the game. And
Yeah.
it's the bullet sponges, it's the fact that you're always fighting. Like people are trying to talk to you over the radio, like Fontaine's calling to yell at you over the radio, but like you can't hear anything. This is where it all kind of goes to shit in my opinion. But I don't know. When you were talking there, cuz you were right, like when you're building up to fighting Ryan, you feel like that's the end of the game. Like maybe there's going to be something afterwards, but you're right there, and you're not right there. There's a lot of
No.
game left. Do you think it would have been better if the game did end like 15 minutes after you killed Andrew Ryan?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even like if Bioshock 2 was focused on like hunting down Frank Fontaine, or
Yeah.
maybe you aren't able to take him out. Like, who cares? Like, Rapture's already kind of like doomed
Yeah, who
anyway.
gives a
So
shit? Yeah.
if maybe like your decisions about the little sister, like, determines whether you live or die, and maybe in Bioshock 2 you handle Frank Fontaine, I think I would like that more. But especially because I'm just going to jump right to the end of the game here. I think the final battle is so goofy,
Oh,
where
dude,
Frank
it's yeah.
Fontaine looks like Dr. Manhattan. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. I'm like, bro, why is he like so juiced up? And like, he looks like nothing you've seen in the game up to this point. And I'm like, okay, this is just a little too much for me. And I wish it would have like kind of wrapped up near where we killed Andrew Ryan for sure.
Yeah, I think I it may have been a little unsatisfying to just like leave Fontaine in there, but like you're right. Rapture's like falling apart anyway. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like let's just get out of there. So I cuz I think what happens is after you kill Ryan, Fontaine starts to like he starts to like break stuff, and he starts to like take over, and you like the little sisters call you over, and you follow the little sister. Yeah, you follow the little sisters through these vents, and then you
Mm-hmm.
fall into like their home.
Mm-hmm.
What if the little sisters just like led you to a submersible and you just fucking got on and left? Like,
Yeah. Or led you to a trap because you harvested
yeah, that's
them all or
true.
something like that, you know?
That's something I should have looked up. I don't remember, like, is any of this different if you harvest the little sisters? I know
think
the
a
ending
little bit
cutscene is
is.
different.
Yeah, I think when they lead you to the nursery, like you're getting to the like all the story beats are the same, but I think the little sisters might treat you slightly differently
Yeah.
depending on like how you treated them throughout the game. But I still think it works. But the reason I feel like I don't love the back half of the game is because it kind of the themes of the story up to that point kind of just fall away. And now it's kind of like, oh, Frank Fontaine is this huge bad guy.
Yeah.
And we got to take down this huge bad guy while he assaults us with a billion splicers and a billion security bots or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, dude, the early parts, like the first half of the game, basically when you're going up to Ryan, it's like mostly learning about Rapture, learning about these people, and learning about what happened and how did Rapture get this way. And after you kill Andrew Ryan, most of that stops. Like you do
yeah.
learn more about the big daddies and little sisters, and you learn about Tenenbaum, and you learn a little bit more about your past. But like that's it. And then it kind of becomes like an action movie of like go kill
Little bit, yeah.
Fontaine, and it's way less interesting after that. And it all culminates in just truly one of the worst boss fights in gaming, in my opinion. And in the director's commentary, they just straight up say like, this was a mistake. This final boss fight was a mistake. So yeah, you heard it from them too. Like it's dog water. It's terrible. And I'm glad I'm playing on easy, even on, cause there's splicers everywhere. There's security bots everywhere. You got to do like this, like fight him, and then he goes back in his atom machine to recharge, and you gotta do the little sister needle and pull the atom out of him. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's bad.
It's odd.
Um,
Yeah.
then there's ending stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to like loop back, rewind a little bit, talk about some of those main NPCs, and especially like Tenenbaum and some of those others that like were part of making Jack this genetic weapon, part of creating the Little Sisters, and part of the others who just like fucked Rapture up real bad. Um, so like the main ones that I wrote down are Fontaine himself. How did he get to the point he's at? Sander Cohen, the artist, Tenenbaum, who found Adam, discovered Adam, and then created the Little Sisters, and Dr. Steinman, the plastic surgeon. So were there any of those that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, let's talk about like Tenenbaum and as a result, I guess Suchong a little bit.
Yeah, and
I
Suchong, yeah.
love the audio logs that you like start to hear where you kind of understand the origins of Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing Tenenbaum talk about, yeah, I found this fisherman and he said he had an issue with his leg, and it all of a sudden got better because once he got bit by this sea slug. So I bought the sea slug off of him and I studied it, and she discovered Adam, and it's kind of like this weird Nazi-esque journey that they go down where you hear them talk about, oh, this miracle, substance, and
Mm-hmm.
it can help all these people and give them all these magical powers. And then it starts to get really dark where it's like, oh yeah, we're just testing on people because
Yep.
we need to see what these things can do. And all of a sudden, oh, we don't really have enough, so we need a way to keep the supply going. And that's when the Little Sisters come in. So it's really, really dark, and there's nobody in Rapture in Bioshock 1 that you're like, that I'm super gung ho about. Even Tenenbaum, who they try and like kind of do a 180 on and say, oh, well, now she regrets her actions and she really wants to save the Little Sisters, which is, it's the reason you survive. But also, it's like, okay, you also are like literally a war criminal, one of
Yeah.
the worst human beings alive. Like, what you've done to these little girls and the people of this underwater city is like insane.
Yep.
So, very interesting characters there.
Yeah. Tenenbaum is really interesting. Like you said, the backstory with finding the atom, and then like this is the major thing that contributes to Rapture's downfall is that they introduced Adam to like the public as all of these like, weight loss magic and make yourself beautiful magic, and like, if you want to shoot fire out of your hands, hell yeah, you can do it. This is Rapture, you can do anything you want. Um and then they realize like, oh, Adam rewrites the genetic code. They need more Adam in order to keep their genetic code stable. And the elites, because this is like hyper capitalism, were like, well, this is the economic opportunity of a lifetime here. These people need this thing that we have the sole supply of. So fuck yeah, we're gonna make a shitload of money with this.
Yeah.
And also because this is Rapture, we're not placing any regulations on any of this. You are free to do whatever the hell you want with Adam. Make whatever plasmids you want. Um, Throw it out to like, the doctor, the surgeon, everybody. Use this however the fuck you want. Like, this is Rapture. If you want to test the limits of the human body as a surgeon, by all means, do it. And that the fact that people could no longer get the atom that they needed caused them to turn into the splicers, and caused people, I think that's what helped people get behind Fontaine. And then Fontaine faked his own death and became Atlas and became like this underclass hero, and they threw their weight behind Atlas. Because it's not hard to, even if people go to Rapture with the idea of like, this is this utopia where progress is the most important thing, like the elites are still living the elite life and I'm down here suffering. So like,
Mhm.
it's people are not equal in Rapture. So the uprising
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. I really love the progression of the story of like, Andrew Ryan creates this society where he's like, everybody pulls themselves up on their own bootstraps. And then you see him like really struggle with his ideals as issues start to pop up. Like, you learn that Frank Fontaine purposefully smuggles in like certain aspects that Ryan wanted to leave out. Like, you find a crate of Bibles.
Yeah.
And Andrew Ryan was strictly like saying leave religion out of this, and he smuggled other things into the Rapture, or like tried to incite things in Rapture that went against Andrew Ryan's teaching, so that he can basically do a power grab. And Andrew Ryan heard of like a union occurring, like the boogeyman, the union boogeyman
Right.
occurring, and he was like, we have to stop this, right? And now he's becoming the intervention that he so despised when he was in America, right? So it's just such a fun dynamic where, like, one of the villains of the story is literally having his ideals challenged, and it's clear that Andrew Ryan is not just an evil bad guy just to be an evil bad guy. Like, he has beliefs, and he believes in those beliefs strongly. But when those beliefs are tested, like, what happens? Like, how does he reconcile all of that? And I think, Bioshock does a great job at like really giving us the story of how like Frank is playing chess with Andrew Ryan to like really challenge him in a way that he never thought he would be challenged in his own utopia.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Andrew Ryan's like, everyone pulls themselves up by their bootstraps, and your production is the most important thing. Like, that is the prime ideal, is that you make things.
Yeah.
But you can't be on my level. I have to be above everybody else because I'm Andrew Ryan. And when someone, like, I think in the story, Fontaine does reach like a level where he's equal to Ryan as far as power and influence. And that's why Ryan wants him dead, because like you said, like, I have these ideals, but they most apply to me more than anybody else. When push comes to shove, I have to be on top. And so that's part of his downfall in here. Because it does sound like there was a decent amount of time when Rapture was working as intended, but this like philosophy with like no regulation, no guardrails, nothing like that, that can only last so long before people go too far. And like, part of my favorite thing of the early part of the game is finding out how people in all of these different walks of life took it too far. Like, Tenenbaum took it too far with creating the Little Sisters. And I had forgotten, they don't like test tube grow the Little Sisters or clone them or some shit. They just like take little girls from families and turn them into Little Sisters. There's a really poignant apartment you can find in an audio log where these parents talk about seeing their daughter as a little sister, and they're like, she's a monster. Like, what has become of our daughter? And they go home and they kill themselves because they like can't handle it. And you find their bodies like hugging each other in bed, and it's like really sad.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, later in the game, like, Tenenbaum has, like, she genuinely cares for the Little Sisters, but she's a war criminal to match any of the other war criminals in the city. And you work with her because she's the only one you can work with, but she's also the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because a lot of times in the game leading up to like the big reveal, Andrew Ryan you'll constantly hear him talking about a parasite. Like, there's this parasite that's out there that's trying to just leech off of the working man.
Yeah.
And the working man has to, do whatever they can to distance themselves from the parasite, and Rapture needs to purge all parasites and all these things. And ironically, there literally is this parasitic type creature that is infecting Rapture, and it's kind of like the sea slug that they use to build the atom and infect people with this atom. And like, Andrew Ryan can see in real time as the splicer problem starts to grow out of control, but he's resistant to do anything. One, because people are very dependent on it, and Frank Fontaine has like Fontaine Futuristics that are distributing these plasmids, and he doesn't want to be seen as interfering. But also, like, it's just like he doesn't want to be a hypocrite to his own ideals. Meanwhile, there literally is a parasite ravaging his society, and he is sitting by and feels like he can't do anything. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how all of the different characters that you come across try and take advantage of the system in place and try and, you know, swap sides either to Ryan or Fontaine, depending on what's going on at a given moment. Especially Tenenbaum, who swaps sides many times.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting with Ryan that he's so convicted in his ideals that he will let the city fall apart. He'll let the city burn. He'll let there be a revolution rather than like adjust his belief system. And I think that there are people who, like, on its face, and like I said, I'm including like my younger self, who, like, you read these things on their face or you hear them on their face and you're like, well, yeah, if you want to make progress, then you can't limit medical research the way that we do. Or like in Ryan's case, you know, talking about a man is owed the product of his work without anyone else reaching their hand out asking for a part of it. That's the parasite that he's talking about. And then you see it all play out and you're like, well, yeah, okay, actually all of this is bullshit. Like, we do need regulations. We do need to make sure we don't hurt people along the way. Like, we do need to weigh the cost of whatever progress we're trying to make. And when Ryan is faced with this, he's just like, he's unwilling to budge in any of it. And that's part of his downfall. And that's, I mean, you translate that to the real world, where I think all of us grow up with various belief systems that we kind of like learn about, latch onto for a little bit. We form a belief system and then we get challenged on those. And then, like, what do you do when your belief system is challenged? Do you change to accommodate new information, or do you like dig your heels in and become like Andrew Ryan was in this? So Andrew Ryan starts out as like this belief. He has this belief system that sounds really good on paper the first time you look at it and take it at face value. And then once you start going, you're like, oh, actually this sucks. This is bullshit. And here's all of these reasons why, and all of these examples why this sucks. And we just see it so many times in the real world where, like, people are so unwilling to budge, even when presented with like the facts. This is harming things. This is making things worse for everybody. But no, we can't interfere because I believe that we should not interfere. Even though the world is crumbling around me, I cannot interfere, you know?
Yeah, I think it's pretty poignant when you are leading up to like the big Andrew Ryan confrontation. You finally get to his office and he is just sitting in there playing golf on this putting green. His little office is pristine. And you're like, oh, okay. And he looks like a regular person. He's not like mutated or anything. And I doubt he's ever touched a plasmid, but you kind of look at him and like this whole time he's really urging you to leave. And like he has it under control and he's trying to urge his civilians to fight back and all these things. And you're like, dude, you're ruling over a pile of ash. Like, there is nothing left out there. Like, I don't know what you know. I don't know what you've seen. You have cameras everywhere. So I assume he's seeing it play out. Like, there's no, like, you've lost. Like, I understand that you want to stand by your beliefs, but there's literally nothing left. And not only that, but it's not that your beliefs were just wrong and like all the things that tore you down could have been prevented. It's like Frank Fontaine is like an opportunist. He's not like the good guy in the story either. Yet he used all of these different like tactics. He exploited the idea of having unions. He exploited the idea of religion.
He was a con man. Like, that was his thing when he was rising up. Is legitimately he was a con man.
Yeah, he talks about having all these different identities. Like, he knows how to play the part for the situation, and he just literally checkmated Ryan by by figuring out the weakness of his beliefs. And Frank Fontaine is a guy with probably no beliefs. He doesn't believe in anything. He will,
Right.
match the moment for whatever will make him the most money. Which is saying another thing. He also loses in the end. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of commentary, and I appreciate that the game doesn't like really choose a winner and say this is what you need to do if you want to feel like you're on the right side of history. It's more of like showing, like you said, what can happen when you dig your heels in, and like when something sounds so great on paper, or like when you think you have the upper hand, always like what kind of comes out from like certain behaviors or certain like belief systems. So great. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I think they are. I think the game is definitely saying that like this, progress at all costs is definitely wrong. Like we do
Yeah.
need guardrails. We do need regulation. We do need to make sure people aren't getting hurt. And like at the end of Ryan's story, like he makes the choice that he would rather die than like face a reckoning or change or like
Mhm.
something. Like he would just rather die. And so he, as you are like following the instructions, he like takes the golf club to the head and he gets up and he just keeps repeating, a man chooses, a slave obeys. Just kind of like he's telling you like you're the wrong one here. Like look at what's happened to you. Like I'm the
Yeah.
strong one choosing when I can die. When in reality he's, you know, he's choosing the easy way out when he's faced with all this stuff. Instead of changing or helping or anything like that, he's just like, nope, all right, well, I'm out then. So
Yeah.
yeah. We have some other characters that I think are interesting just to touch on, even just a little bit. Again, showing you like this perspective of uh, without regulation, without restrictions, without moral boundaries and stuff like that. What would a doctor do? What would a surgeon do? What would an artist do? And so we have Dr. Steinman, who is the plastic surgeon, who is just maybe at one time he was doing nice little like nose jobs and stuff like that, making people happy with their appearance. But now he's just like he's a mad scientist, and he's one of
Yeah.
the first. He was one of the first ways that they show you like this philosophy mapped onto medicine and like physical appearance. This is the direction that goes because this guy's fucking out of his gourd, and he's like doing. There's an audio log you find where he's like doing a simple procedure on someone, and then he's like, I don't like their eyebrows. I'm gonna do something there too. And the nurse is like, dude, you can't do that. And he's like, he goes on and does it anyway. He has a bunch of audio logs where he's like, he talks about how now that perfect beauty is at our fingertips, we have an imperative to make everyone beautiful,
Yeah.
whether they ask for it or not. And he uses this analogy where he says like, do we force the healthy to mingle with the sick? Therefore, should we force the beautiful to mingle with everybody else? So we're doing plastic surgery against people's wills in here because he's so obsessed with this idea of beauty. It's a great first introduction. Like, I love how they slice this into these different like plastic surgery, art, economics, science research with Tenenbaum and Suchong. Like as you go through the game, you get these different angles. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, I think the big reveal of like when you finally see him in the flesh and he has these people like splayed out above him in his like
Yeah.
little operating room. I think that's a great kind of like, oh, this is a tone setter of like these are the types of people you're gonna come across. Like
Yeah.
Rapture is mostly empty. And obviously the first people you see are these like sick splicers that are obviously something's wrong with them because of the drugs they were using.
Mhm.
But then you see Dr. Steinman, who is different than a splicer. Like this dude clearly has something going on in his head, but it's nothing good. And you're like, oh, this person's sick. And these are the people, these are like the supervillain type, Batman type people where you're like, yeah, I'm just going to stay away from this person because they're absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I love how each level you kind of get a slow transformation of like how this person started versus like how you slowly hear them like go insane based off of like the freedoms they're given or like some of the decisions they start to see slowly taking place over courses of time. And Dr. Stein is the first one where it's like, oh yeah, this guy started to take it too far and then just stayed that way.
Yeah. They all have this like superiority about like their field in a cool way. Like Steinman with his pursuit of like pure beauty and how, you know, now that we can make people perfectly beautiful, you have to. Like we have a moral imperative to do it. Sander Cohen is really cool too, the artist. Probably I think it's other than the Would You Kindly Andrew Ryan reveal, like I think this is probably the most famous part of the game is Sander Cohen's section. He's an artist and he has like this whole wing of, you know, there's a theater, art gallery and stuff like that. And in order for him to help you, I forget exactly why you need his help, but in order for him to help you, he needs you to help him create his masterpiece, which his masterpiece, again, this is art without the limits of morality. His masterpiece is displaying 4 photos of dead bodies that he wants you to go kill his rivals, enemies within the sector, or people who disappointed him, and then take pictures of their bodies and then display it in this this exhibition for him. And that is his masterpiece.
Yeah, the Sander Cohen section is it's very cinematic in that when you first meet him, you see him playing on this piano.
Yeah.
Or like he's making somebody play on this piano, one or the other, and ultimately the guy that he has under his control ends up exploding and dying, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he
like,
made too many mistakes.
Yeah, you're like, okay, so this is the guy we're dealing with. And yeah, he leads you on this wild goose chase to, well, I guess it's not a wild goose chase. There are ends to it where you're finding like his proteges that like studied under him and you're murdering them, taking photos. And this is another one where it's like, oh yeah, this is a task that is pretty weird, but hey, you got to get to the bathysphere. So I guess I'll go randomly kill these people. And yeah, Sander Cohen is like one of the peak examples of like Rapture is Wild West. Anything goes. Nobody's trying to stop anybody, and everybody's afraid to speak up because everybody wants their own little freedoms and their own little spaces to operate how they choose.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like there is like a moral line with relation to like what you can put in art. Like I remember there's a metal band I remember reading about that like one of the band members died and they put a picture of his dead body on their next album cover. And it was like,
okay.
Jesus Christ. But like, you know, pushing that boundary, I guess. And so Sander Cohen is like that, but you're allowed to explore that to its full potential in Rapture because no one's going to stop you. I wonder what that band is. Got me curious to look that up again. I probably shouldn't. I don't want to see the album cover again. But
I don't know. Yeah,
that's that was a cursed like late night Wikipedia dive that turned into like, okay, I should probably close this and do something else.
Yes.
But yeah, Sander Cohen is following that, and then at the end he like. There's like this staircase going down from the top level down to where this exhibition of the photos is. And he's like, there's like fireworks and like poppers and shit going off. And then he comes down and he like talks to you. And then he's like, okay, you can go. And most of these fights, like Steinman and some of the other ones, they end in boss fights where you have to like fight the guy. With Cohen, you don't have to, you can just leave. But in my opinion, Sander Cohen's got to go. So I attempted to fight him this time, but there's a big daddy roaming the area, and the big daddy, what happened was because Sander Cohen has the ability that some of the splicers do where you can teleport around. And one of the big daddies was just walking through the area, and I shot it on accident. So it aggroed, it killed me. And then when I respawned out of the Vita chamber, I came out to go find Sander Cohen, and he was gone. And I was like,
What the heck?
yeah, I don't know. I guess he ran away. So I didn't get the satisfaction this time of taking him out.
I definitely didn't kill him. I was like, oh, I don't have to fight. I can just keep going and play the game.
Yeah.
I need to get out of here because I had already, after killing 4 of those people, I'm like, I got to get out of this level and keep playing the game. I'm sorry, Sander. You'll get your due someday, I'm sure, but it won't be by me.
Right. He kind of pissed me off before that because part of his it's like part of his masterpiece is the performance of him sending a bunch of splicers in, and you have to fight like waves and waves of them. And then he gives you a little treat after you kill all of them. So yeah.
I will say,
yeah,
I did have one like little upgrade, the camouflage upgrade, where if you just stay still, you'll be invisible.
Oh, shit.
I just stood in a corner and the camera just kept going off and sending out drones.
Oh, nice.
So luckily I didn't have to do too much to fight those people. But yeah, after that little wave, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around to try and get my butt kicked by this guy.
Right. Yeah. I think that leaves Suchong.
Yeah.
Is one of the other ones we haven't talked a whole lot about. Suchong was part of the team that did the genetic modification on your character, Jack, as a baby. He also did work with the little sisters. Like, you find these fucked up logs of him talking about like trying to imprint the little sisters onto the big daddies. So like they care about them, or maybe it's vice versa. I don't remember. And I think it's fun when you find his dead body and you find the audio log when he he got mad at one of the little girls and he slapped her, and he didn't know the big daddy was like imprinted already, and he got big daddy drilled into a table, and that's how you find his body, and it's very good.
Yeah, that's sick. Suchong is like, he's literally like a Nazi war scientist. Like, all of his audio logs are just him being like, yeah, there was this guy and, I wanted to try this thing out. So, I injected him with poison or something like it's just like every single audio log is messed up. And you're like, who is this guy? Why are people working with him? But I think he was brought to Rapture specifically by Andrew Ryan because he was the brightest scientist, despite whatever his like criminal history might be in terms of war crimes.
Right.
That was a perfect example of the best and brightest with no moral compass getting in the way of progress.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he was like one of the few key characters you hear like doing all these terrible things, and like he already got his justice before you even have to come across him, which is very nice.
It's pretty brutal when you find his body, and it's got a big daddy drill. It's still in him, like through the table, impaling him through the table. And then you find the audio log and you're like, oh shit, that's Suchong. That's how he went out. It's pretty good. Any other characters before we get to the big daddy section and then the endings?
No, I think everybody else is pretty minor. Shout out to Fontaine Fisheries, and there was like a little bit of foreshadowing where, like, I think the second area you go into, there's like this fisherman, Peachy or whoever, who you need to like get past, and he's like, dude, I think you're working for Fontaine. Like, I don't trust you. How do I know I can trust you? All these things, and you learn that there's all these like rumblings about Fontaine being like sketchy, and there's like this whole faction of people like, I don't really like this dude. He's kind of like a scam artist, or he's kind of weird. And turns out you were working for Fontaine the whole time. You just didn't know it. So
yeah, like we said, those seeds for that reveal that you're actually working for Fontaine, the would you kindly, all that stuff was there. You just didn't know what you were looking for yet, which is really cool. So kind of like getting into the end section, the reason why is a little bit lost. I think you have to just like walk on the seafloor to get to this place where Fontaine is at the end, I think. So you have to turn into a big daddy. And
so the reason was that you needed the little sisters to guide you there. So you had to like basically trick a little sister into leading you to his office, which I mean also doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a lot of little sisters that we've already saved who should know, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe I'm remembering Bioshock 2 where you have to
That
upgrade
is
your suit to
Bioshock
walk
2.
on the seafloor or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this section sounds really cool where they're like, you're going to go in the Big Daddy lab where they make the Big Daddies and stuff like that. And you find like the dorm rooms for the little sisters, like where they live and stuff. And it's like, you know, some of them have like normal little kid drawings in there. Some of them have like horribly fucked up kid drawings in there and stuff. And you go through this process to find these Big Daddy suit parts. And then I don't know about you, but I was like, oh shit, I get to be a Big Daddy. Like that sounds awesome.
Yep.
And effectively all it does is like put a filter over your camera and like make your footsteps heavier.
Yeah.
It's pretty disappointing, I think, this section. Like, because I since playing this, I had played Bioshock 2, and I was like, I love playing as the Big Daddy in Bioshock 2. It's super fun. And then I was like, oh shit, I got to do it at the end of Bioshock. I didn't remember that, and it's because you don't. Nothing really changes.
Yeah, that's the exact thing that happened to me where I was like, "Oh shoot, am I going to be able to use the drill for a little bit?" I
Yeah.
don't remember doing that. And then the first piece of equipment I got was the helmet, and I was like, "Hell no." I reloaded and I was like, "I'm going to go get the shoes first. Like I'm not having this filter on for like the next 30 minutes while I collect all these pieces."
And then yeah, you get the suit pieces, and what it really amounts to is you do these little sister protection segments.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're bad here, and there's a lot of them in Bioshock 2, and they're bad in Bioshock 2. Just not very fun. And especially because you don't get the drill. Like, why, if you're gonna do
No.
this, like give me a drill. Let me drill some dudes into walls. Like, let me have fun with that. But yeah, not a great section.
Yeah, you kind of see the writing on the wall. Once you get to this section and you're doing these protection missions, you're like, "Uh-oh. Like what's happening here? We were doing so good." And to be fair, I do like being in the area because once again, they're still really good with the environmental storytelling of being in like this like little sister nursery / training ground. Really getting a little bit of backstory there. But yeah, with Frank Fontaine just chirping in your ear as like generic bad guy, you'll never get me kid type thing. And then like having to do all of these like things that are just seemingly prolonging the end for no reason. I was like kind of done with it at this point.
Yeah, it's not fun. The promise of being a Big Daddy was, they wrote a check they couldn't cash there, so it ended up not being fun. I'm sick of combat by this point. Like combat's been bad for a minute by this point. Being a Big Daddy doesn't make it better. It's just, like you said, the camera looks a little funky, and stuff like that. And then I want to make a note here because we'll revisit this when we talk about the ending. But part of the Big Daddy process to become a Big Daddy is you're not just like getting boots and a helmet. You have to like get these pheromones that the little sisters respond to, and you also have to fuck up your voice.
Yeah, I was like,
so
what
they'll
the
respond
hell?
to your voice. They have this like, do you ever watch Futurama?
Yeah.
You remember like the suicide booth in Futurama?
Yeah. Yeah.
They had like this suicide booth ass thing where you go in, it just like shoves this like spinning needle thing down your throat and it like shreds your vocal cords or some shit. I
Yeah.
don't know. So you can do like the whale sounds that the Big Daddies do. Really fucked up to think about, like that's why they make those sounds. But you got to do that as part of your Big Daddy process. I want to like say that and put a pin in it to revisit in like 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that point specifically where it's like, okay, getting the stuff, putting on the suit, fine. And then you get to the voice modulation and it like has blood on it.
Yeah.
You're like literally, what the hell is this? Like, why is there no other way? Is there no other way to do this?
Can I not get like a voice thing that's like put over my mouth to like change my voice? Like the technology exists. So you do that and then you go through the thing, you go to Fontaine. Fontaine dies by being tackled by 100 little sisters and they just stab the fuck out of him all at once.
Yep.
Very good to see that's how he dies. They pull out all his Adam. And then you get a different cutscene for the ending depending on how you interacted with the little sister. And it's all or nothing.
Yep.
I read between these two cutscenes. If you harvest any of the little sisters, your character turns on the little sisters after they take down Fontaine, and you take their atom, and then you lead a group of splicers to take over a nuclear warhead armed submarine, which is just a dog shit ending in my opinion.
Yeah, it's actually insane when you think about it. You're like, it not only are you like taking over Rapture, but you go to like the most extreme for no reason.
Yeah, why?
How does harvesting a little sister lead to nuclear warfare? Like, I don't even know if Fontaine was on that level of like insane ideological thinking.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, like, if you're harvesting the little sisters, the game is saying that, well, okay, you're a bad person then if you're doing that, which, whatever. I'm killing little girls, call me a bad person. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do with taking over a nuclear warhead armed submarine? Like, exactly.
Yep.
I read that because Tenenbaum gives voiceover after all of these, during all of these endings. And depending on how many little sisters you harvest, she'll either be like really angry during that voiceover if you did a lot of them, or if you just did a couple, she'll be kind of sad during that voiceover, but you're still doing the submarine thing. On this playthrough, did you do any harvesting or did you save all the little sisters?
I saved them all. I was like, I already knew it was one or nothing, and I was like, I don't need it. I know I'm getting the gifts, so
yeah,
it made it easy for me.
Yeah, I think that is another point in favor of that choice not being good, is there is no reason to harvest them once you know that you get the gift.
Unless you like nuclear warfare.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, so if you don't harvest any of the little sisters, your character puts a bunch of them on a submersible and takes them up to the surface. 5 of these little girls who've never been on the surface, who've been through whatever the hell this process is. Because like we didn't say the little sisters are like, they don't look human anymore. Like like their eyes are green and shit. Their skin is like super gray. They look like they're dead, basically.
Yeah, they look like necro girls or something like that.
Yeah. And so take them up to the surface, and this cutscene shows that apparently you lived a full life surrounded by your beautiful 5 daughters that you adopted. And Tenenbaum has this really cheesy speech about like finding the one thing you were looking for the whole time, a family. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. And it shows like your character is like old withered hand on your deathbed, and like the little sisters like hold your hand as your character dies or something like that. And I don't think that ending is very good either.
No.
It is a happy ending, but I don't think it's a good ending.
I want to make it clear for people that your backstory, Jack's backstory, is that he was a secret love child between Andrew Ryan and this random woman. Fontaine paid to buy you off of her.
Yeah.
And apparently I heard this in a YouTube video, so I don't know if I didn't get an audio log that said this, but you were his ace in the hole. I heard that they genetically modified you to become an adult within like a year. Like you went from a baby to an adult.
Yes.
And they sent you to San Francisco. So you as a person are also fucked up. Like you don't know, your idea of the world is completely messed up, and you have false memories. So the fact that all of these, everybody in this end of the story is messed up. All the little sisters, I think some of them were even engaged or married, because I think when all the hands come in, I'm pretty sure I saw some wedding rings in there too. So I was kind of like, what is happening? How did we all end? And my voice is gone. My vocal box is destroyed, as you mentioned
exactly.
earlier.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring that up. Like, okay, so your guy can't talk, which is like, yeah, you can live a life without talking, but like, it's that Adam. You've been taking so much Adam while you were down there. Your genetic code is, you took more Adam than anybody other than maybe Fontaine, but apparently that's fine. Did you bring a store of Adam with you up from Rapture? Did you make did you make runs down to pick up more Adam? Like,
Maybe Tenenbaum had a supply for you somehow.
yeah, there probably was a way for this ending to like be a nice ending that like made sense, but none of these loose ends connect to this ending at all.
Yeah.
And so I saw this
100%.
and I was like, what? That's how, because I forgot how the game ends
It was
after.
rough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for the most part, Bioshock games notoriously don't necessarily always stick the ending. But I'm willing to forgive it because the journey was so strong on Bioshock. Just the journey of learning about Rapture that I'm like, all right, sure, all the little girls are saved or whatever to an extent, and we'll all live happily ever after. Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah. That is a good point that I had forgotten about how your character was like super aged. Like Fontaine didn't plan this
Yeah.
25 years ago. It was like, 18 months ago this all happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're like 1.5.
So yeah, like your guy goes out to the, I guess it's in the false memories, but it's like, does your guy know how to get a bus, like take the bus or like
Yeah. Yeah.
get a job or something? Like, does your guy have skills other than shooting a gun? Like, who knows? But it doesn't diminish like the good stuff before that. But now that we've gone through the spoiler section, it really is to me, after you kill Andrew Ryan, the game like plummets in quality in a lot of ways, other than environmental details are always good. Audio logs that you find are still good. But basically everything else just becomes way less interesting.
Yep.
So
100%.
kind of a shame, but I'm not, we talk about it and we give our evaluation of it here on the show, but I love Bioshock. It's not gonna like taint my love for the game. It's just, the last couple hours are pretty rough in my opinion.
Yeah, it happens. I feel like a lot of games have this problem, but it's about the journey, not the I mean, sometimes it's about the ending, but in this case, I want to say that the Andrew Ryan moment was enough of a really fun conclusion in Apex that it wasn't like I felt completely unfulfilled. It was just like we added a bunch of stuff that we didn't necessarily need.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that is Bioshock, well covered for our purposes here. So thank you for giving me the time. Thank you for doing the show with me. Thanks for the conversation. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Hopefully I'll come back and play something else.
Yeah,
if
for
the time
sure.
is right.
Yeah, maybe we can be a little bit more on brand, have you back on for an indie game or something like that at some point, but we'll definitely find something.
Fantastic. Well, I had a great time. Shout out to Bioshock. Everybody should go play it, like I already said. And maybe play Bioshock 2 and Bioshock Infinite, because the stories are wild. I'll say that.
Yeah. I love Bioshock 2. And I loved Bioshock Infinite when I first played it, and it's aged really poorly in my memory since then.
Yep.
So I will play it. I will replay it. I'll probably do a podcast at some point. Like, remember when we were talking about like, is Andrew Ryan racist? Like, I remember the race relation stuff in Bioshock Infinite being real bad. So
yeah, it's really in there. Yeah.
That'll be an interesting one to revisit. But I'm looking forward to Bioshock 2 next. Get some drill action going. Play Minerva's Den again. Looking forward to that stuff. So, yeah, more Bioshock in the future on the show. On a long enough timeline, it will happen for sure. So, Joseph, thanks again for being here, and thank you to everyone who's still here with us at the end of the episode. I appreciate all of you. You're my heroes. If you're here at the end, all the way at the end. And the last thing is to say tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
And Jacob McCoy.
with many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
Welcome to Bits of Time, where we ask you the simple question, is this video game worth your time? And we're two brothers having a conversation about a game and why we loved it.
Or a difficult discussion about why I didn't or we didn't beat a game. So I hope you join us.
Because it gets pretty wacky sometimes with the questions we ask each other, and maybe a little heated every once in a while too. If you plan on sticking around, you'll be getting 2 episodes each month, the first and third Wednesday.
We also have a brand new debate-focused series, so if you want to be a part of it, join us.
Yeah, join us. Or, reach out, get in contact with us, and maybe you could be on the show with us and debating all kinds of things, granular or not. We'll see you then.